Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. And I know it's been a hot minute. I do apologize. First, international break, and then I went on holiday, but we're back. There's a lot to get through because I missed a lot of things. FIFA ratings, the games against Villa and against Zenit. Obviously, I watched them, but couldn't make content for those. But even bigger is Chelsea playing Tottenham Hotspur tomorrow at White Hart Lane. And it's always a huge game. All of us are excited for it. Lukaku, Harry Kane. It's big. It's big, and I'm excited for it. Chelsea have put me into this mood. And even the Zenit game, obviously, again, like I said, I couldn't make content about it. But, it wasn't great. But even in that, I don't know. I saw everyone on Twitter. Everyone was losing their minds and we're awful and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I just sat there. I don't know. Tuchel and Lukaku and the team have just managed to put me in a position where I'm not stressed anymore. I'm always confident that we're probably going to win anyway, somehow. Especially with Lukaku now finally having this guy up top who can actually get you a goal, even when maybe you don't deserve a goal. It's just changed everything. And especially going into big games, it changed things even more dramatically for me anyway. But as you can see, we're joined by two very, very special guests. Con might join us later. I am unsure. It's on, my fault, not his fault in this case. But we'll see. But like I said, we're joined by two very special guests. Of course, my partner in crime, Mr. Carefree Lewis. First of all, bro, how's that Palace kit suiting you? And secondly, cheers for coming on.
Of course, man. I already said it's Tottenham away, so we're going to go with our fellow Londoners as well. Big up Crystal Palace for rolling up Tottenham in that pack. And on Sunday, we're going to smoke it. So we've got a very good weekend planned. But yeah, looking forward to Spurs away. Hopefully a clean sheet. Expecting another 3 points. But it's been a great week building up to it. So let's just hope we get the end result that we've wanted to see.
Hey, it will be big. It will be absolutely big because Spurs have been a bit weird. I'll get to Gem in just a second, but Spurs have been weird. They started the season and getting wins, especially a huge win on day one against Man City. Even if they arguably maybe deserved, it's maybe the wrong word, but City definitely weren't good that day either. But since then, Spurs, yeah, sure, at the start they ground out some results against Watford, and then that game against that Portuguese side that somehow managed to get them into the Europa League. Or was it a Conference League? Whichever one it is, anyway. But then Palace absolutely smacked them a new one. So with that said, Jim, first of all, thank you for joining. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow? Are you confident?
Yeah, look, listen, Spurs, I'm always confident when we play Spurs. It's 3 Point Lane, isn't it? It's always been a 3 Point Lane for us. I'm to be honest, I'm excited to see Romelu Lukaku just body their defence, to be honest. We've not had that since Diego Costa and Didier Drogba, and now we've got a striker that can actually just bully defenders again. I'm just looking forward to seeing him do that tomorrow, hopefully.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. It's just good. Even though it arguably makes it even more difficult to think about who should start because, last season we had, Kai Mason, that's probably guaranteed. And the question is kind of who else starts because, you give us one of those kind of slightly more creative rather than, I don't know, to me, Kai isn't as such a creative player and Mason sometimes is, but they're kind of just, they need to play. But then we add one more. But now it's Lukaku starts and then Mount once didn't play and then Kai didn't play, but then Ziyech keeps playing but doesn't play that well anyway. So what do we do? So there's a lot to get through. There's a lot of things to discuss. And by the way, everyone in the chat, big up Khaled, big up Ted. It's been a minute. Timo Werner's Secret Service. Big up yourself. Was that father? Yeah. Am I right?
That's
Pretty sure. Michael as well. So excited for this. Would appreciate you being here. I think Werner could do a job against them. Hey, he might do. We'll get to our predictive 11s and stuff later. And Zvo Genius.
Big up, Matt. Come on, G.
Yeah, exactly.
Big up yourself. Cedric as well. Love that from you guys. Absolutely love that. But I think with that said, and like I put in the title on the thumbnail, but I also want to kind of, use this Tottenham-Chelsea kind of game, because obviously Romelu Lukaku against Harry Kane, to also discuss a little bit who potentially might be the best striker in the Premier League. Of course, we have to, or can't, I suppose, ignore Cristiano Ronaldo in that discussion. So we'll get to that later on. But I think we'll get to Spurs first and foremost. Or rather, before getting to Spurs itself, quickly just a bit of a recap on the last two games because I couldn't really talk about them. So let me go with you first, Lewis. The last two games, Villa was kind of all over us first half, but somehow we won the game 3-0 anyway, and it was amazing. But now a week later, how do you feel about that game? Was it just good because we got a 3-0 win, or have we got to a point where now with Spurs tomorrow, we also not only need a win, we also need a convincing performance?
I think I want that, but more based off the Zenit performance than Villa. Villa, we gave them hella chances, and they could have been 3-0 up our points in the first half. But that was more just because Sal just wasn't really fully adjusted to Premier League football. And I've been saying it's not anything to slate him with. He just clearly got brought in way too early, and you could just see it based on his output. He was poor in that game, but it's not on him. We managed to cope with that well, and to be honest, it also makes me feel very confident because we had a passenger in such a key area of the pitch, but we were able to cope with it and still cope with the added pressure that put on our plate. Thiago Silva and the rest of the defense were excellent. Edouard Mendy was just saving everything that came near him. And as soon as Romelu Lukaku had one chance, he gobbled it. And as soon as we brought Jorginho onto the pitch, we stabilised the midfield and we controlled the game from there. So the Villa performance I'm happy with, despite the fact that we didn't play well in the first half, because I understand the reasons why. And we still coped, we still applied pressure, and we managed to get a convincing win out of it. It's a Zenit game that annoys me because the service to Lukaku was just poor all game. And it just forced him to hold up the ball and be surrounded by 3 Zenit players. And it meant that his options were very limited. We had to have Reece James cutting inside from the right wing-back position just so he could have an option because nobody was giving it to him. But we still managed to get 2 wins out of it. Romelu Lukaku takes any clear-cut chance that he has and he puts it in the back of the net. So we're in a good enough place because we have a player of that quality. But in terms of worries, the only thing that worries me is our chance creation because we aren't making good enough chances and we aren't doing it enough in a game to really dominate. I think because with how good Lukaku is, you feed him 3-4 quality chances. That's a minimum of 3 goals. But we feed him 1 quality chance or 2 maybe if we're lucky. And that's about it.
Or like against Zenit, 1 half chance and he scores anyway.
Exactly. The Zenit one, that was screaming 0-0 at half-time. I thought there was going to be no chance we see anything in this game. And it's just credit to Lukaku that he got a goal. And that's the capabilities that he has. But that's what we signed him for, I guess. But we still need to see more from the creators. Ziyech ain't been good enough. Mount has dropped off over the last week. I think Kai Havertz has had the flu, so I allow him. Like, I get why he played poorly against Aston Villa. Hudson-Odoi could be potential, but he ain't going to play, so we don't even need to talk too much into it. It's more Pulisic. I would have liked to see Pulisic play against Spurs, but you know Pulisic, he always needs a game or 2 to get back onto form, and I don't think Spurs is that game to speed him up.
He's also injured anyway with his ankle, isn't he?
Yeah, he's injured, but he was meant to be back for the Spurs match, but I wouldn't want to start him just because he's back. Well, I don't know what Tuchel said in his press conference. He might still be out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he is still out, but I can't. He might have initially said he should be back for this one, and then it turns out he wasn't. I don't really know about that one, but I mean, hey, I agree in a way. I mean, it's weird because Zenit just has such a different game plan to Villa, but both of them kind of played well at what they tried to do, in my opinion. Like, sure, Villa were really aggressive. They outmanned us in midfield. Obviously, Saul and his struggles made having 2 against 3 even more difficult on the day. And then for the second half, not only did we take Saul off, but also did Ziyech move more into midfield, and we kind of mirrored their 3-5-2 more so than playing a 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, whatever you want to call it. But because you just mentioned it there, Lewis, and I think it is a good point, and it's not a point that I want to discuss in any sort of negativity. It's just because it's a bit, I'm curious and interesting how other people feel about it. So I put it to you, Jem, in that case. You know, last season, it was almost the opposite of what these last 2 games have been, where pretty much every game we had loads of chances, but just very often failed to, convert them and, win as comfortably as we arguably should have done with the chances we created for ourselves. And, so far this season, and especially the last 2 games, it's kind of been the opposite where we've kind of not created that much, but when we have, we score pretty much every time. And now the question is, do you think that's because we now have Lukaku and a more real striker? So kind of one less kind of moving around creative player in that front 3? And do you think that now is where we're seeing what a lot of people were always going on about when we said, if we can, let's switch to a back 4 just to give us one more attacking player. So you can have a striker and still 3 creators around him rather than, once you have a real striker, you only have 2 others, if that makes sense. Do you think that might be part of the reason why we're creating a little bit less? Or do you think it's just been 2 games and, we will get back to what we did last season and create loads, but with Lukaku and also score loads?
I mean, it is still very early in the season. That's what I mean. What was it? 4 games in, and we haven't played too well, especially in the last 2 games. For me, it hasn't been good enough. I think where we struggle with the creative element from our squad is we need more from the players behind Lukaku. When I mean players behind Lukaku, I'm talking about the Ziyechs, the Mounts, the Havertzes. We haven't seen Werner, so I can't really throw him in there yet because I don't really think Tuchel's given him the opportunity to actually see what a link between him and Lukaku would look like. Because I think that could actually be, and I've said this, and I stick by this. I actually think it would probably be more impactful than having Hakim Ziyech on the pitch. I think you'll get more from Timo Werner playing in the current system that we play than having a Hakim Ziyech, because I just think, I don't know with Hakim Ziyech if it's whether he's struggling in terms of the system, whether it's just not him. He's preferably a winger. If you think about him back at Ajax, he always played off the wing. What we're asking him to do now is play off the striker just behind and sort of filling in them little gaps. But we saw it against the Zenit game, and the biggest issue we had in the Zenit game was what you said, creativity to Lukaku was shocking. A lot of the times, Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech will both go in to the ball. We don't want both of our players behind Lukaku getting dragged to go and stand next to Jorginho and Kovacic and pick the ball up and turn around and want to play it, because when they look in front of them, it's just Lukaku on his own. And what happened in that first half was we was playing the balls into Lukaku, no one was around him, and he was just getting tag teamed up on in many ways, and he didn't have any runners basically. So for me, I think it's about chemistry. I think it's about Tuchel understanding who he can play. And who, because I get the rotation and I'm big for rotation, but I think Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech are too similar. So I think you play either one of them two with Lukaku and or Havertz or Werner. The reason I say that is because Havertz and Werner will play closer to Lukaku and they will make runs into spaces. I just think it's a little bit of a teething thing. So I don't think we fully understand. I don't think Tuchel actually understands what's his best 11. My preferred three up front's Mount, Havertz, and Lukaku at the moment, because we haven't seen anything of Werner yet. I'd like to see Timo Werner play in these games, and preferably in the Spurs game, because I think there'll be a lot of space for him to run into behind the back. But I just think it's about Tuchel finding it more than anything. It's not like we haven't got it. I think we have got it. It's just finding the right players, the players in form, the players that actually work, the chemistry work better with them. Because Hakim Ziyech, for me, is bottom in the pecking order. He doesn't deserve to be starting any more games, in my opinion. I don't think he's been good enough. So we'll have to see.
It's weird, isn't it? Because obviously he played in the last two, but before that, obviously picked up that injury after having a wonderful preseason and playing really, really well against Villarreal until he picked up that injury, obviously putting us 1-0 up in that game before he picked up the injury. So on that form, you could say Ziyech has to be one of the first names on the team sheet in that form. But now he's kind of not really done a lot. He's kind of shooting too much in positions where arguably he shouldn't do. And then what really triggers me about him, we know how good of a ball and how good of a left foot he has, but he only plays one and the same pass over and over and over and over again. He takes it from the right onto his left foot and swings it to the far post. And there's never anybody there. We don't have a player that does that. Alonso doesn't have the pace to get that high from left wing back. Chile might do. So when we have Chile back, maybe that's a thing we can exploit a little bit more. But so he's not there. And then Pulisic is the only player that would get to those balls. I mean, you mentioned Timo Werner there. But Timo Werner, obviously, we've seen that with Ziyech last season already. Timo also never ended up getting to those balls. The only guy that ever did go get to those far post balls was only ever Pulisic. And obviously, he's injured. So I do definitely see what you're saying. Timo is an interesting one because, people know I'm not his biggest fan. But even I will say, everyone deserves a chance, especially when you have a new player to play with up front. So I do think and want at some point, to see him play with Lukaku and around Lukaku as well. It's just, the Spurs might be one example, but I saw a lot of people say against Zenit, it should have been Timo. I'm like, to me, that seemed like, have you just forgotten what happened all of last season? Every time Timo played against a low block, all of us were wishing for him to come off as soon as we started him do anything. So it's like, how fans always are, the thing you don't have is always the thing you want. But Jeff, you want to
I just think it's a little bit different now, Laurenz. And the only reason I say that is that we have a target man. Last season we played Timo Werner preferably through the middle, and he didn't. What I'm trying to get is with Timo Werner playing as a second striker, there's not that much attention on him to be marked. I think he can run into pockets and run into space without worrying having to be the focal point. As with Lukaku, you've got that focal point. I think you would see a better Timo Werner being able to run off him and into the spaces behind, and that's what I think. I think you'll get a better version of Timo Werner playing as a second striker than actually being the main guy like he was last year. That's why I say we should give him an opportunity. Why not? He deserves to see if there's a link up or at least any chemistry between him and Lukaku going forward. If it doesn't work, fine, fair enough. But give the guy a chance. You know what I mean? I think he's got enough to be impactful. I know you have said on here that you don't think his touch is great, this, that, and the other in his game, but he doesn't score goals, which is, I get that he needs to score goals, but I still think he brings more to this system than what Hakim Ziyech does. And that's why I want to see it. So, yeah.
I mean, I do actually agree with that to some extent. Depending on opponent, I do sometimes see that. It's also, and obviously a little bit depending on form, like both on good form is a different discussion to both on bad form or both on average form or whatever. It's just obviously compared to Timo when he played up front last season, I completely agree. I'm not sure how drastically different it is compared to when Kai was up top and Timo was off his left. Sure, it's different, but even with Lukaku and having that target man, it's not like we do or do we want to just keep punting it to Lukaku. That's not what we want to do either. So, we still have those moments when we have the just structured possession and trying to break a really low block down like Zenit was obviously at times on Tuesday. And then Timo will, in my opinion, have the similar struggles to what he had last season. But he still does what he does and is still useful in the sense that he will make a run, even if it's sometimes a slightly pointless run. It's a run that drags a defender and creates a little bit of an extra gap for somebody else. And especially when a team is super low, that's what you need. But at the same time, it's almost like having a player whose only use really in that when we play a low block is to pull players, rather because when you give him the ball, it doesn't really do much. But hey, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. And like I said, we haven't seen it with Lukaku yet, so maybe it will be different. But Lewis, how do you feel about Timo? Do you think Timo would help us in certain games at the moment? Or do you think, it's kind of a case of Mount, Havertz, maybe Ziyech, and let's see what happens when Pulisic's back fit?
Werner and Lukaku both have the sort of presence where they take defenders with them. So I feel like they open up space for each other simultaneously. Or it's a case of whichever one the team focuses more on, they open up so much space for the other. The only problem with Werner is the same problem that we constantly speak about every single week, that he had chances last season. He had plenty of chances in space and not in space, and he missed a lot of them. He'll have a lot of space, which should give him a bit more time to be composed, but he has to put the ball in the back of the net when he has those chances. That is the big game changer. If he plays the two up top and his finishing still reeks, then I don't really know where we go with Timo Werner at this point. I feel like we've hit our ceiling with him, and he ain't going to get much better in a Chelsea shirt. But we have to see it in practice. We've only seen it in the last few weeks against Villa, in the last few weeks, the last few minutes against Villa, and his run set up space for Lukaku to get the third goal. So there is definitely some truth to this, that Lukaku and Werner can play brilliantly together and get the best out of each other. It's just, are we going to have another season of Werner the decoy runner, or is Werner actually going to pop in with some actual goals this season? Because that's what we need to see from him. But we have to see it for ourselves. All we have is the Crystal Palace game at the start of the season, and that was just same old Timo. If anything, just emphasised the need for a striker. So hopefully it's different with them together, but we have to wait and see, and he has to show it to us first.
I agree with that as well, because, and I will also say, the way it was used against Villa, when obviously he didn't start but came on and, with his run, opened up, the space for Aspi to find Lukaku more comfortably. Yeah, fine. Sorry, just read Lewis's private chat here.
Sorry, I forgot to say earlier, but my bad.
No stress. I think that's what I would like to see more of as well a little bit. Just bring him on in last minute games. Obviously, last minute games before the last 15 of a game to help us with the decoy runs then, because like what Lewis said, sure, I want him to do more than that, but the only thing I'm comfortable and confident in him doing is those runs. But do I want a player like that from the start? Maybe not. But do I want a player like that late on if we need it? 1,000,000%. Obviously, that's when the struggle comes in, the fact that we only have 3 subs in the Premier League. Although, we had 5 against Zenit and we used 4 of those in the last 7 minutes or something. So, then it's kind of, if you're going to do that, it's kind of equally as pointless, I suppose. By the way, I did just see on my phone, Kyle Walker got sent off for Man City. So, that'd be brilliant if they could drop some more points. That'd be quite good. But, I mean, we'll get to the, predicted lineups and stuff in a minute as well, because I do just want to quickly talk about the midfield situation and the left wing-back situation. I suppose it kind of leads into the team anyway, but let me go with the wing-backs first, because Thomas Tuchel said a few very interesting things. I think it was actually before the Zenit game about Ben Chilwell. Obviously, the fact that he was mentally struggling, the fact that he was at the Euros but never got to play minutes, especially that game against Ukraine when there was just absolutely no need at all for him not to feature. Like England was like 4-5-0 up with like after an hour. Why wouldn't you put a player on? Like Mancini for Italy brought Sirigu on just to give him minutes, just to be nice, to get everyone involved. And that's one of the reasons why the longer the Euros went on, the more I turned against England. Obviously, I'm not English, but Southgate just pissed me off so much with some of these decisions. I'm like, the only thing you're meant to be good at is man managing, because no one says he's tactically great. And then how can you literally put a player basically into depression? Like that's what Tuchel basically told us, that Gareth Southgate put Ben Chilwell into depression. That is awful. It's absolutely awful. Poor guy, honestly. Poor Chile. Should quit from playing for England full stop. Just focus on Chelsea, you're better anyway. But then he didn't start against Zenit again. So I was again a bit confused by Tuchel. And sure, he came on, but he didn't get that many minutes. So that was all a bit strange again to me. So let me go with you first. I suppose Lewis. Let me go with you first, Lewis. How do you feel about that whole Chilwell situation? Mentally struggling, not playing at the Euros, and then having over 100 days between his last few minutes of competitive football of the Champions League final until he came on against Zenit. Obviously, Alonso has a great record against Spurs, so that's probably one where you probably stick with Alonso and then play Chile against Aston Villa. But it's just harsh because Chile was so good at the end of last season, and I still feel like as great as Alonso was for a couple of the games, the last two was a bit more of a struggle again. It's just different when we have Chile. The legs and the energy that he brings, it's just a bit different to Alonso.
Yeah, and I get that. And I don't know why Chilwell has been out for so long, but I feel like something's happened behind the scenes that they're just not telling us yet. And we'll find out in our own time or something, but there's no reason why he hasn't been playing for so long. They'll say, England, but like Reece James and Mount have been playing. So that's not true. Even if he didn't play a minute, like Reece James only played one game. It's not like one game's that much big of a difference. But Alonso's been pretty good this season. I'll give him credit where credit is due, but I also think there's just a bad game waiting with Alonso. I don't think it'll be the Tottenham match because he does love his London derbies. I expect him to have a good performance in this game too. But Man City, sorry. No, that's where we stop. No, I need Ben Chilwell in the lineup for that one. Get him match sharp against Aston Villa and then have him ready for Manchester City because Guardiola will expose his arse. And that's facts. He will expose his arse immediately, and I don't want that. Riyad Mahrez will run rings around this guy for fun. And it's all due respect to Alonso, but I know his capabilities. And to be honest, I'm surprised he lasted this long because I thought the Liverpool game he'd be getting spun, and he actually did produce a good game in that one. But we also had our backs to the wall for a long period, so he didn't have to go forward as much. The Man City game, they'll rip the life out of him, and they'll also kill his confidence. So this is the last game for him. Great start to the season, but I need Ben Chilwell. I need somebody reliable for Manchester City. Just get him match sharp wherever necessary.
Okay, I would agree. Jem, anything to add, or shall we move on to midfield before we quickly get to the predicted 11 that we'll discuss?
Yeah, we can move on, but short and sweet. In terms of Alonso, I think with Alonso, you know the heights that he can get. Like his limit. He's very limited in what he does, and I agree with Lewis. Going into the City game, you just can't have a slow coach, which he is a slow coach playing left wing back against the likes of Mahrez and people like that. So yeah, I definitely agree. Chilwell needs to get back in the team sooner rather than later for me.
100%. Now, have also seen by Redneck Blue there. Anthony Taylor has done it again. I'm not sure what he's done again. I'm not sure what game he's refereeing right now. Huh?
Oh no, he's one that got regulars on my streams. Alex, big
Redneck Blue. Yeah, big up to him.
There you go. My bad. But I'm still not sure what Anthony Taylor has done. So, if you want to elaborate, please do. 88th Bus Stop has said it's a ball holding possession that Alonso has been. It's the ball holding and possession that Alonso has been playing. He's also more clinical up front. He's definitely more clinical, but the problem is, at least in the last two games, in my opinion, he didn't get up top anywhere near enough. He should have been higher up the pitch way more than he has. And that was at times a little bit frustrating because what Zigzag said 100% applies for the first couple of games against Palace, against Liverpool as well. Alonso has been absolutely fantastic, but against Villa and against Zenit, I don't think he was. I mean, everyone has their own opinion, but I don't think he was. So, I agree with both Jem and Lewis on this one. But let's get to the predicted 11 for the Tottenham game tomorrow. I think no one will, have any debate about who the goalkeeper's going to be. So, let's just put Edouard Mendy in there, of course. The guy that's been absolutely destroyed by EA. Like, what are they doing? How is he an 83 rated goalkeeper when he's broken literally an all-time record in the Champions League for clean sheets? That makes no sense to me. But anyway, let's get to the back three. And I suppose it's a little bit of a conversation that we can, have as we name him there, because Rudiger will start. Rudiger will be the left centre back. What do you boys feel about his contract situation? Let me go with you first this time, Jem, because there's been talk about we've offered apparently 140 grand and he wants more. And obviously from January onwards, he can talk to other clubs, and apparently PSG and Real Madrid are interested. It's a tough one for me because I'm just a little bit confused why Chelsea aren't happy to pay him more. Like, with how well he's been playing, unless the worry is that he can't keep this up for that much longer, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to, because with how he has been playing, he absolutely fully deserves every single penny of what he's pretty much been asking. Like, it's been absolutely phenomenal. So, the only thing that's confusing for me about this is that we haven't just given him more money.
Yeah, that's not nothing new, really, to be honest, in terms of Chelsea Football Club and the way they run. I think they're very strict in terms of how they play, in terms of what they pay players. Don't get me wrong, there's still players on our books that are well overpaid. Like, I remember Ross Barkley's on there for like 6 million a year still, or 5 million a year, which is ridiculous. Barbara Rahman's taking 95 grand a week. You know what I mean? Like, if Rudiger wants 180 and you've got Barbara Rahman getting paid 95 grand a week, I don't think that's too bad. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. I think it's one of them things, really, because I think Rudiger is, in terms of this system, is definitely worth every penny of 180k. I think he's probably one of the best in the world, or if not best in the world in this system by far.
Agreed.
If he goes to PSG, if he goes to a Real Madrid, they don't play in the same system of us. They play with a flat back four, and for me, that's where his value may, even though they're looking to pay him more, in theory, could drop. Should drop, because we haven't seen him play in a flat back four. I don't think you get the best out of a Rudiger in a flat back four than as you do in the system that we play. So I just think I think we'll meet him in the middle. I know he wants 180. We've offered him, I think we're looking to offer him 150 now. I reckon we will meet in the middle. I do think eventually we'll get an agreement with him. But at the same time, I think he's probably sitting there thinking, you know what, I'll wait out and hear what offers I'll get. I've heard PSG looking to offer him nearly 200k a week. Euros, isn't it? I think it is 200 euros a week. And I think Real Madrid were 100 and something, can't remember, but it's still a lot of money, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, and I think
that will be, plus sign-on fees that obviously he'd get if we joined them on a free next summer.
Yeah, exactly. I think PSG are actually 250. Sorry, they're 250 million, 250,000
euros.
Yeah. And I think Real Madrid are close to the 200. So I think we just got to get it done. At the end of the day, we're looking, especially going into next season, we will be losing maybe Thiago Silva. Aspie might take a little step back as well. That only leaves us with Christensen. Obviously, we let Zuma go. We've only got Christensen and Rudiger and Chalobah. It's not really good, is it? You know what I mean? So we should tie him down.
No, exactly. And I mean, personally, I'd just like us to meet his demands or find an agreement before January, before his head can get turned by other clubs. That's what I want to avoid. Like, I do think that he wants to stay, and I do think that we can make him stay. But I think once we let it go past January and he can get those offers and those talks with these other huge clubs, that it's dangerous. It's dangerous that his head just gets turned. They sway him, they soothe him, they tell him, this is gonna be great, and you're gonna be the superstar, and blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? And that's a little bit dangerous. So I would like to get it tied down before that. But Lewis, do you have anything to add on that? Or do you just agree? Let's just hope we can find an agreement in the end.
Simple. You give Rudiger the money, Rudiger stays. And it looks like we just don't want to do that. We're nitpicking on it. I feel like the club should have known this situation before the end of the transfer window, because they could have moved accordingly and tried to sell him if that was the case. But either they're confident that he'll change his mind, or they will relent and give him the 200k if it does come to it. But I don't think the club lets him go for free. I think the club's too busy focused on being self-sustainable to let one of the best centre-backs in Europe leave on a free. So I think they could even give him the money and then just potentially sell him the next year if they don't want to keep him on that packet. But I think he resigns eventually. I think it'll be stupid from Chelsea to let him go on a free.
I mean, I'd actually agree. Even though the comment does, half cover Jem's face, I do apologise. CFC Alex made a reasonable point here, saying, yeah, but that's why Chelsea were interested in bringing Koundé in this summer as a replacement for Silva and Aspie, which is true. And
wasn't it more a replacement for Zuma though?
Who? Koundé?
Yeah, one
Koundé,
out, one in.
Koundé was a replacement. I think Koundé was more, like I said, a versatile option for the whole back. Silva.
Yeah, I know, but that's why it was one in, one out, but it also upgrades because Koundé's levels clear of Zuma and way more versatile too. But I don't think he's a replacement for Silva and Aspie. I think that might be the case now because one of them might be going as well. But that probably means we go for 2 centre backs.
Yeah, I think. To be honest, his position is of a right centre back. So I don't think Aspie goes anywhere. I think you might just not see him play as much. But he'll be definitely playing for that position. I think in the middle, if Silva goes, you've got Krusty the Clown, haven't you? So there's no need to look anywhere else.
Here we go, bro. 32 minutes in you, lad. I'll be honest. Fucking knew it.
Has he renewed his contract? Yeah.
Nah, but it's gonna happen. Probably.
How much does he want?
Probably cheaper than Rudiger.
Should be. Well cheaper.
I mean, that's probably why it's gone through so quickly.
Yeah, we're spending all the money on Christensen, so we don't have any left for Rudiger.
You know what I mean?
Priorities, in it is what it is.
There you go. I mean, with Koundé, I get what Chinos is saying with it, but it's a case of I don't think it's a direct replacement for anyone directly. It's just a case of you need enough centre backs for all of your centre back positions, rather than thinking of him as a replacement for anyone in particular. More like a young, versatile, talented player that can be useful in various positions. He can probably play on the left of the three. He can definitely play on the right of the three. If necessary, he could possibly play in the midfield. Play even right wing back. Sure, less likely, but theoretically. So I think it's more of a case of that one. But let's move on. Let's get through that predicted 11. And yes, Redneck Blue Liverpool, unfortunately, 2-0 up against Crystal Palace, which obviously is not so fun to see. But let's get to the remaining 2 centre backs. The question is, and just because we were talking about him a second ago, Lewis, do you think it's good old AC? Or do you think it's going to be Thiago Silva as the centre back?
I think it's both of them. I think you have Thiago Silva in the centre, Christensen on the right, and you got Rudiger on the left. That's how I think we set up for our back three. Interesting.
I mean, it's a shout.
I agree.
Do you?
Yeah. I'd go with exactly that. Thiago Silva, Christensen, Rudiger. They would be my 3 as well. I think you need Thiago Silva for this game, and I think Christensen will be good for pace, especially on the side. We know Aspie, he suffers with pace, and in this game, they're going to look to play on the counter, and they will have Moura playing. I don't know who else they've got out because I know Son might be back. We're not too sure yet. It still ain't confirmed yet. So you want someone with pace as your wing back, as your right centre backs for me. So
it's interesting. But then the next question with that is: does that mean Aspie is dropped, or does that mean Reece James doesn't play because he is not suspended anymore? So one of them can't play then, Reece James or Aspilicueta. So I'll put it to you again, Jem. Who's then the right wing back?
What I would want is Reece James. What I think Tuchel's going to do is Aspie. That's what I think he's going to do. So if we're going based on what we think Tuchel's going to do, then it's going to be Aspie for me. But I think Reece James is the better option, better wing back, more balanced, and also he offers more on the offensive side of things as well. Aspie, I don't like seeing him there. We saw it last season, and I don't know about you guys, but he had one good game against, I think it was Real Madrid, away. I think he played there. I think it might have been away. He played there.
For both legs, he played there.
Yeah, but then the ones at home, he was just not for me. It just wasn't working.
But then you see what he did against Villa for that setup for Lukaku, and I'm like, this is what I want from Callum Hudson-Odoi. Where is this kind of movement with the ball at his feet when we play an actual winger? But when we play Aspie, who's more of a centre-back these days, he can cut in, make the play a perfectly fed through ball into the striker, feed him for a finish. I'm like, so it's a... I mean, James wasn't great against Zenit either. I would agree, Zigzag. I definitely would agree. I mean, if you're asking me what I think Tuchel will do, I think it's Rudiger, Silva, Aspie, and Reece plays right wing back. But if we're going to say this is the back three, yeah, I do actually agree with Jem that it probably will be Aspie. But Lewis, what about you? Do you think if it's that three, who do you reckon will be the right wing back?
For me, I'd go Azpilicueta as well, because he is good going forward. Yeah, he would struggle on the transition, but we have a back three that's meant to cope with that. So I think Aspie would be the right move for us. I also think Reece James's head might not be in the right space after the last few days either. So potentially might not be the best move for us.
Exactly. Although I have one question about this, and I'm not by any means trying to say, oh, why is it such a drama? Of course, it's awful to get your home robbed. But first of all, he said he doesn't keep any jewelry at home. Now, my question is, so where do you keep it if you want to use it? That I don't understand. And number two, what's the like? Surely they can just send him new medals. Surely that's not the big deal.
Yeah. I mean, have we become investigators now, detectives?
No, but you know what I mean? Like he put on his Insta post, I don't keep jewelry at home. I'm like, all right, so where do you keep it? Because if not at home, how do you use it then?
And you got like one of them safe deposits where you just like roll up and, you know, it's all protected like security premises and you just, you know, open up your thing and put stuff out. I don't know. But
you can't do that for like, I don't know, rings and chains, I don't know, you wear regularly, can you? You can't just roll up to something to safety deposit every day. But yeah, obviously it's harsh and, you know, I hope they find the culprits. I'm a big fan of him releasing the CCTV footage on Instagram, by the way. Love that. But yeah, you know, obviously I hope he gets it back. And maybe that's a shout as well. Maybe it's not the best. At the same time, maybe for him mentally, it would be good to get a game in and, you know, forget about things rather than, you know, have to sit there and be annoyed that, you know, your house was robbed. But hey, let's go with this.
Not let him forget. I can't lie. Football fans are peak like that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point, Tottenham fan. But yeah, that is very true. That's very true. But left wing back, I mean, we discussed it a little bit earlier with Chilwell and Alonso. I think the fact that Chile didn't start Zenit, I think he's very, very unlikely to start tomorrow, in my opinion. And like we discussed, Alonso loves a good London derby, loves a good game against Spurs. So if there's one game where I'm happy for Alonso to keep playing, it's probably Tottenham anyway. So do we all agree Alonso at left wing back?
I'm never happy seeing Alonso playing though. I'm sorry.
Hey, I agree. I totally see what you're saying. But with the fact that Chile has only had like 10 minutes or whatever against Zenit, it's probably not the best time to throw him in.
I think the problem you've got that with Laurenz is that you're going to have that issue all the time, you know, until he's going to have to start playing games at one point or another. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, he's going to continue just saying, "Oh, but he's only had 10 minutes. He's only had 15 minutes. He's only had." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, my hope is he starts the cup game against Villa midweek, and then he can just
yeah. Alonso will play 100%. I agree. He will play.
Yeah, you as well, Lou.
Yeah, Alonso will start this one for sure. Chilwell ain't fully match sharp.
Exactly. I mean, now the big question, because for once in midfield, we actually have a bit of a question. Because Kovacic has been playing absolutely out of his skin, but also we saw against Villa how much of a difference it made once Jorginho comes on compared to when he isn't playing. But Kante is now back fit. So who on earth starts in midfield? The way that Tuchel said it about Kante sure says to me that Kante starts, right? So let me just put Kante in. Obviously, if either of you disagree, you can tell me in a second. But the way it was always talked about, and, you know, he probably could have been fit for Zenit, but we were like, let's not do Zenit. We don't really need him for that. But against Spurs, we really want him. So let's make sure he's sharp and ready for that. So Kante starts. But with how good Kovacic has been, it would be harsh to drop him. But also, we just need Jorginho. Like, there's no better proof than the first half against Villa that without him, we just don't have as much control as we need when we only have a midfield too, in my opinion. So with you, Lewis, is it Big Georgie and Kante? Would it be harsh on Kovacic to be dropped, or who is your midfield two? Or, well, who's your midfield two, but also who do you think will be Tuchel's midfield two, I suppose?
I'd say Jovicic, because Kovacic's form, you can't bench Kovacic in this form. Like, he's had some of the best games I've seen him play in a Chelsea shirt. Yeah. So for me, he has to stay. Jorginho's the one that doesn't get dropped regardless, in my opinion. If he's fit and he isn't too overplayed, he plays. So I go Jorginho and Kovacic for me in this one. Has to be.
Fair dues. Chat, if you're watching, obviously, by the way, I also haven't told you, subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be brilliant. Smash the like button. That's always massively appreciated. And of course, if you want to, do use the super chat function to support the channel. And if you have any things, topics, questions, whatever you want us to highlight and discuss, please do not hesitate. But yeah, like I said, everyone in the chat, put it in who you think will be the midfield too. So you agree, Jem, that it's going to be Kova and Jorginho rather than Kante? Because to me, the press conference has just seemed so clear that Kante will start.
I just don't see how you drop Kovacic, at the moment. I think he's in, like Lewis is, in some of his best form at the moment. At the same time, you don't want to burn him out. Do you know what I mean? Because we're going to be playing every 4 days.
And he played all 3-4 for Croatia, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So I can see a Jorginho and Kante, double six in there. That could happen for me. But at the same time, why change something that's working very well? And Kovacic and Jorginho is something that is working very nicely at the moment for us, and he's, like he said, he's in some of his best form at the moment, Kovacic. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if Tuchel does drop him, just rest him up a bit and throws in Kante. The only thing with Kante, I mean, you can't really question him for it, is that he hasn't been playing anything. He hasn't played anything, has he? He hasn't done it. So, this is a big game for him to come in and play, but it is N'Golo Kante at the end of the day, so I don't think he needs time to just...
He has played. He only got injured against Liverpool, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah. Pretty sure. He was here at the start of the season. He played Villarreal, he played Palace, and he then got injured against Liverpool, I thought, didn't he?
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But still, what I'm saying is he hasn't played a lot.
It's been a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So it's one way or the other, I don't care. If it's Kovacic or Jorginho or Kante and Jorginho, I'm happy for both.
Hey, first, I agree with that sentiment, first of all. I'm happy with either way. I think we'll be fine either way. But I will say this. I think if this is our back three, we're more likely to have this as our midfield too. If Aspie plays here and we have Reece here, I think then we're more likely to have Kante midfield, if that makes sense. Because that is a more... I say that. I mean, obviously Aspie's great defensively as well, but it's kind of like it's still a little bit more defensive having Aspie here than Reece. So in general, it makes us a tad more defensive having those 4, I suppose. And then maybe not Kante midfield. I don't know. I personally think it's going to be Jorginho and Kante. And then maybe Kovacic Soul against Villa midweek, and then we judge on form. And if I to be honest, I mean, you boys can disagree, but if I'm gonna go by what I think Tuchel will do, I'm very confident it's going to be these two. As much as it's sometimes harsh, but Kovacic has often been the unfortunate, victim, I suppose, of sometimes being dropped when we didn't quite expect him to get dropped. And now this is awful news. Bloody Southampton. Do you know what I mean? Like, Austria managers, Brozier, what's going on? What you're doing, eh? Come on, you're a man up against these lot.
I'm being told it's offside, though.
It's offside?
Maybe.
He knows you get punished for that one. You ruined my day, and you didn't have to. Liverpool, by the way, are 3-0 up against Palace. Naby Keita scored. Brilliant. 60 million well spent. See, people don't talk about that enough, in my opinion. What a waste of a signing that was for Liverpool. Anyway. But let's hope it's offside. If anyone finds out, please do tell. But let's move on. Obviously, I don't think we'll ever know until tomorrow the lineup comes out who actually will play in the midfield 3. Let me just get that down, because I think we all know and we all agree that Romelu Lukaku will start up top. The question is just what happens around him. And to bring it back to one of the games that I didn't discuss, Mason Mount against Zenit, his first half was really poor. His second half was a lot better. I do think some people, especially on Twitter, lost their minds too much, saying Mount was god-awful all game. That's, in my opinion, not true at all. I think his second half was, not saying he was amazing, but he was definitely much improved compared to his first half. Simon Johnson said yesterday on some podcast that the expectation in the media, I suppose, is that it's going to be Lukaku, Havertz, and Mount up front. So let me go with you first this time, Jem. Do you agree that it's going to be Mount and Kai behind Lukaku, or do you think there's going to be a slightly surprising Timo Werner in there? Because Timo has barely even gotten in from the bench, let alone being in contention to really start.
I think it will be Mount, Kai, Lukaku. I would like to see Werner play. You might see him later in the second half, depending on how the game's going. If we're drawing the game and we haven't scored, or if we're behind, you'll see him come on. If we're winning the game quite comfortably, I don't think you'll see him come on. I think you'll see him play in the cup game. That's where I think he will come into it. But
and I think Lukaku might get a rest there.
But this is the thing I was going to get to. The thing that I don't know how you guys feel about it, but in terms of Lukaku, obviously there's a lot of reliance on him. I know it's only 4 games in, but it seems like he's scoring the goals that we needed. And you look at the Zenit game as a really good example of it. Last season, we would have drew that game. There's no way in hell that someone would have scored, and he would be the difference. But are we slowly worried a little bit that we might just be using him too much, might burn him out? It's a lot of games to be played, 50+ games of the whole season to rely on Lukaku to play considerably. I know he might not play the cup games here and there, but that's like once every couple of weeks, couple of months, sometimes, and many times. So I'm just, I like Lukaku will start this game, but I'm just worried in terms of with Lukaku, the burnout phase. If we continuously keep paying him because we haven't got goal scorers around, like this is why we need the Timo Werners, the Mounts, the Havertz is to step up and start putting some goals in the back of the net for me.
I do definitely hear what you're saying with that, but then again, we won the Champions League without Lukaku, so I'm sure we'll be fine when we do rest him, if that makes sense, and just put Kai up there. But Lewis, what about you? I know you need to head off in a couple of minutes before myself and Jem get into a bit of a Premier League striker discussion at the end. But do you reckon it's going to be Mount and Havertz behind Big Rom, or do you reckon there's going to be maybe again Ziyech? I didn't expect him to start against Villa, and I didn't expect him to start again against Zenit, but he did. So who knows?
Right, I want to see Havertz. I want to see Havertz in, but no, I want to see Mount in behind Werner and Lukaku, but I don't know if we go for that. So with that in mind, Tuchel will never do it, but I'd want someone direct to play. So I would have played Cho in this game, but it's not happening. So I don't even need to go that deep into it. I can hope, I can dream, but it's not happening. So we'll go Mason Mount. God forbid we go Hakim Ziyech again.
Surely not. Surely Kai start after
Kai Havertz, man. It's Kai Havertz.
The thing with
Havertz was left out the last game. Surely he doesn't not start too.
I think Ziyech needs a run of games to get back to his best. But I wouldn't persist with him in those runs of games because I don't want to have a passenger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But would Tuchel do it? That's the thing. Are we doing the lineup we want or the lineup Tuchel wants?
A mix of the two, I suppose. Sorry.
Well, I would hope this would be the game we play Werner and Lukaku up top together.
Yeah, same.
But I just don't think it happens. So potentially,
Havertz
had a full week off. Havertz had a full week off from the flu, so he should be fine now. So we'll go Havertz, Mount, Lukaku.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you guys because both of you would like Werner to start. And obviously, judging off that pre-season game we had against Spurs, it was open like crazy. It was back and forth. It was a mental game. And if the game's like that, Werner is a very useful player to have. But judging by Spurs have played all the other games this season, pretty much, even the games that they were favourites in, I don't think we have any space against Spurs because they will just park that bloody bus because that's all Nuno is good for. Park the bus and counter. That's why I never understood when, there was the Frank issue started to happen and we were at some point even linked to Nuno and some people were excited by this. I'm like, you're mad. No, absolutely not. And that's what I think he's been doing at Spurs. Now, I know they beat City. I don't care. I don't care, right? City also couldn't beat Southampton and what, right? I'm not sure, but Spurs is the game for Werner. Villa, obviously, maybe we didn't know that before the game, but in hindsight, Villa would have been a good game for Timo. It worked out with him coming on, but I'm not sure Spurs will give us space where Werner will be that useful. But I mean, both of you seemingly disagree, so I'm just wondering why.
I think I agree with what you say in terms of that they will play to defend, but I think most teams that we play this season will play like that anyway because we're a team that likes playing with the ball.
Anyway. That's why Timo Werner won't play a lot of games.
But then that's what I'm saying. So I think you still have to get him in it. The thing is with Timo Werner, I get what you're saying in terms of space behind not being there, but I think what would be quite good to see is him with the ball, playing it into Lukaku, and then maybe making a run off and hoping Lukaku tries to find him with a little dink or something, and then he's through. That's the kind of imagination that I've got of them two playing together up front. It's not always just about him having to have space behind the defender to just run into it all the time, which I think he will do. I mean, that's his game anyway, majority of the time. But I think he's going to have to find. They're going to have to find other ways to break teams down because we saw it against Zenit. Zenit were very organised, very, very, very organised. I thought they played very well defensively, and we struggled to break them down. And it's now down to our players to understand how to adapt or how to do things differently, or do different things. And I think this game, Timo Werner would work. And the only reason I say that is because when they do counter, there will be space. And that is a big pitch, White Hart Lane. It's a big blooming pitch. There will be space eventually for him to run into. So, yeah, I want him to start. I don't think he will start, if that makes sense. I want him to start, but I don't think he will start.
Fair. But Lewis, do you agree? Do you have the same reasons why you would like Werner to start? Or do you see what I mean by I don't think Spurs is the game for him, if that makes sense?
No, because for me, it's like even in low blocks, Werner would have chances. And I think Lukaku would do well to open up space for him too. It's just Werner has to finish those chances, and that's the big question mark. But I think both of them have presence about them, and they can take space off each other and take other defenders with them and create space. So I think it would work. It's just whoever's in the middle needs to be creating chances on a plate for them consistently, and Werner also needs to be finishing them. But those are question marks that we have to see in practice. Until then, we're just speculating on whether it would work or not.
Hey, that is fair. That is fair. By the way, the City Southampton game has ended. City have dropped points again. 5 games in, and they've already dropped a bloody 5 points. You know, that's quite big.
Let's go.
What does that tell us? Tell us, by the way. That's why you don't spend money on wingers before you actually have a striker in your squad. You know, I mean, sure, Jack Reed is a great player. Scored a lovely goal against RB Leipzig in midweek, even though RB Leipzig lost their 2 best defenders, so, you know, and their manager and their captain, like, you know, great. But clearly, they don't have a striker, and that's what they've been struggling with so far. You know, as soon as a team actually plays well defensively, like Spurs did against them, and like I would presume Southampton did, obviously I didn't watch the game, they're struggling. They're struggling. Lewis, obviously, if you need to dip, just let me know. But I'm going to put it into, I'm going to, you know, push on to the little striker conversation that I want to have here before we obviously get into, you know, score predictions and stuff, just to end it out. Because it is interesting to talk about now. Who is the best Premier League striker? Because sure, we had the Kane Aguero discussion for a few years, but obviously Aguero has left. But we've come in not only Cristiano Ronaldo, but also Romelu Lukaku. Sure, a couple of years ago, very few people would have classed Ronaldo as a real striker, but that's what he is now. Doesn't have the legs anymore to be a winger, so he's a striker now. So who is the best striker in the Premier League, Lewis?
Romelu Lukaku. Not that fucking small game merchant Harry Kane or tapping Ronaldo. Come on, man. Romelu Lukaku's clear. There's a reason why we call him R9. It's the same reason why we call Christensen the Danish Maldini. If the boot fits, wear it. And the boot fits like a glove. So Romelu Lukaku is clear. Get rid of that tap-in merchant and get Harry Kane to score in a cup final and then come chat to us. R9
can't believe
is
you just
clear.
compared Lukaku to Christensen, man. That says it all for me.
Well, they're both players at the top of their level.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Anyway. Go and have your COVID test, mate. See you later.
Yeah, I do have to do it anyway. Big up everyone, as always. Smash the like.
Lewis, cheers for coming on. Take care. Link is down in the description. Subscribe to Lewis, obviously. But Jem, why do you disagree so heavily, or why were you shaking your head even before he brought Christensen into it?
I'll back Romelu Lukaku. The only thing I was just nodding my head about is when he had to bring what he calls the Danish Maldini, Christensen, into the talk, which is just madness. But anyway, we move. But yeah, it's. I think Lukaku. Between Lukaku, Kane, and Ronaldo, if you were to ask any unbiased individual that isn't a Chelsea fan, that isn't a Man United fan, that isn't a Spurs fan, who they think is the best, you'd probably hear them say either Ronaldo or Kane. That's what I think. I think Lukaku would be in the bottom of the pecking order out of the 3 in terms of you know, of the goal scorers. I think Romelu Lukaku. I think Harry Kane's proven, isn't it? Because every year he bangs in goals at a Spurs team that doesn't win anything, you know. So I'm still lost as to why he's still there now. He should have just pissed off and gone to Man City. Do you know what I mean? If he was there right now, he'd be scoring millions of goals with
and they wouldn't have dropped 5 points yet this season.
Exactly. He would be winning in them type of games. Like what happened with us with Zenit and what Lukaku's doing right now. We sorted out our issue. They had the same issue as us. They didn't do so. Do you know what I mean? So,
and even worse, they let Aguero go. Sure, Aguero is arguably past there and injured a lot. But still, if you're not going to sign one, surely you'd rather keep Aguero than let him go and not sign him. You know what I mean?
I think the thing is, we've got to bear in mind, City did try and sign a striker. They got turned away from Ronaldo. Apparently, they tried to go for Lukaku and he turned them away. And what's his name? Harry Kane, you know, they put something forward, but Spurs wanted more than... You know, done a Sevilla in many ways with Koundé, wanted more than what they actually originally said they wanted. So, in many ways, it's you know, it's going to be interesting. But I think, look, Ronaldo, we know he's a goal scorer. Ronaldo will score 20+ goals this season. He just will, because it's Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, he doesn't run around as much more. He just puts himself in the right position. And with Bruno, with Sancho, with Pogba around him, you know, he'll have the creativity as abundance to just sit there and score, you know, pretty much easy goals, good goals in many ways. Lukaku, I think the thing with Lukaku is that he can score goals. It's just how much are we going to create to him for him to be able to compete with the likes of Ronaldo and Harry Kane for the boot, if that makes sense. How
many goals has Kane scored this season? 1.
Yeah.
So Spurs also have to create for him under Nuno now, obviously, because he's a manager that will generally create a lot less than even Jose, in my opinion, but definitely less than obviously in Kane's best days under Pochettino.
Yes. The only thing that Harry Kane's adapted to his game a lot more now is he sort of comes deep and he assists and he makes his own luck in many ways. I know it's all about creating for him, but if you look at a lot of Harry Kane's goals, he kind of makes it happen himself for them, if that makes sense. Like he would just he'll go deep, pick the ball up, knock a 30-yard ball to Son, run in the box, and it will land to him and bang, goal. Do you know what I mean? So he kind of does a bit of everything, and he's a completely different all-round striker to Ronaldo and Lukaku. But Lukaku will be in for a shout. It'll be between the three of them for me, but we can't ignore Mo Salah as well because he will continue.
He's not a striker, is he?
He's not a striker, but he gets put in that bracket, doesn't he? Because he's a forward.
He does, but it's like, it's like because we never put Messi in the conversation who's the best striker. He's not really a striker, even though the goal output is ridiculous. It's a bit like Salah, not a striker. Just for convenience, because if we have to include Salah, we arguably have to include Mane, even though last season it hasn't been that great. But then you have to include so many players, it becomes even more difficult. You can't talk about Mikel Antonio. He's had a great start to the season until he obviously got sent off, and obviously had a good last season as well. But is he up there with those three? Probably not. I'll tell you how I feel about it. For me, Kane is the best all-round footballer of the three. He has the most capabilities in terms of passing, in terms of dropping, in terms of creation in that sense.
Yeah.
I think Ronaldo has the biggest fear factor because of his name. So people will give other players in the Man United team more space because they're so worried about Ronaldo. Sure, Lukaku does that as well, but Lukaku does it because he needs it, because he's so strong, and if you don't give him the space, he will just score. But United could also do it without Ronaldo, if that makes sense, and in terms of the forward potential that they have. But I think in terms of simply striker, I do see what Lewis means by backing Lukaku, because the physical attribute that you need as a striker in the Premier League, he has that. I'm not saying Ronaldo doesn't, but Ronaldo uses it very differently. Lukaku has lightning pace, maybe not so much in the first 5 to 10 yards like Ronaldo, but still way quicker than Harry Kane is. And the finishing, I would say they're probably all very similar. Maybe Kane, well, I would say in terms of just finishing, I think Lukaku is probably bottom of the three, if that makes sense. Just actual finishing. Even though his first games for us made that look different in terms of what he has. But Ronaldo doesn't miss anything. That just doesn't happen. And Kane, the problem with Kane, why he's maybe scored a little bit less last season, is less that he missed more, is more that he had less because he had to turn into the creator because they don't have anybody else to create. So he had to do that side of things more, so a little bit less chances, I suppose. But I think in terms of overall striker, I think you can make a case for Lukaku, but I think because Kane plays so deep, I mean, hopefully he doesn't prove me wrong tomorrow, touch wood, but because he plays so much deeper, I think it's difficult to name him as the best striker, if that makes sense. And Ronaldo is just, I do know what you're saying, but I do still think we can't say, because the first few games in the Prem or for United worked, I don't think that's enough to say he's going to still be great, because the difficulty with the Premier League isn't the one-off games. The difficulty with the Premier League is the physical demand it has on the body over a season. And sure, Ronaldo is a prime specimen of a human being and isn't like most or like any other 36-year-old, but he's still a 36-year-old. Do you know what I mean? So it will be able to, in my opinion, the longer the season goes on, the more you will see that age than in the first 2 games of the season. Obviously, first 2 games of the season, with how good of a shape he is in, you won't notice that. But if you maybe come to Christmas, when's the last time Ronaldo played a Christmas period? That's maybe when I feel like it could start catching up to it. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying that's when it would, if it ever does.
Yeah, I think you got to bear in mind these two were in the same league last season as well in the Serie A. And Ronaldo was top goal scorer, but Lukaku was walked away the more happier because he won the league with Inter Milan. So
and he won Player of the Year, and he had way more assists as well.
Exactly.
So Lukaku did have more goal involvements. Of course, Sky Sports will only tell you about the fact that Ronaldo scored more goals. But in terms of goal involvements, Lukaku had more. By the way, just quickly, I've never seen anything more embarrassing than that Monday Night Football thing where they compared Messi and Ronaldo.
No.
So first of all, they didn't give Messi the Copa America for international titles. I'm like, excuse me, how's that happen? But they gave Ronaldo the bloody Nations League. Are you having a laugh?
Yeah.
And also, they didn't give Messi a Champions League that he won. Are you taking the Michael?
I don't get the Messi. When people try and drag me into a Messi and Ronaldo debate, I always leave it. I don't bother because it's more of your. It's a preference thing for me. Who do you like more? You know, like who should you know who.
It's also
there's no right, Laurenz. There's no right answer for me. That's the issue with it. There's no right or wrong answer. Sorry, there's no wrong answer.
I think there is don't you think there is a right answer if you ask the right question? If you ask the right question, who is the better footballer? I think there is an easy, correct question. I'm not sure if you've seen this by Chris MD. I'm sure most of you guys know who Chris MD is on this podcast, where he says the only people that think Ronaldo is better are people that take pictures of themselves in the gym, Man United and Real Madrid fans. And I kind of agree. As a footballer, Messi's way superior, in my opinion. Got a better touch, not maybe a better finish, but he's got a better touch. He's got a better footballing brain, and he's just a better footballer. That doesn't mean he's a better physical athlete. As an athlete, Ronaldo is superior. But that's why I'm saying
Ronaldo scores more different. Yeah, I think Ronaldo scores more different types of goals. You know, you won't see Messi score a lot of heading goals. Ronaldo would. You know what I mean? You might not see Messi. I mean, other than that, I suppose in terms of Messi's game.
Yeah, because when was the last time you saw Ronaldo score from distance, or especially a free kick?
Yeah, that's true. But I think when you talk about geniuses, I think that's the word I'd use. Like genius on the ball, someone that can just get the ball and just something out of nothing, bang, 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 and then goal. I think Messi. Messi for me is, if I had to choose that two, it's always been Messi for me. I've always been a Messi guy, but I always stay away from it because I think Cristiano Ronaldo is still they're both just an abomination. Like for me, they're out of this world. That's why I said there's no right answer. If you like Ronaldo and you look into his stats and you look at what he's won and everything, his accolades or his personal achievements, it's great. It's amazing. And then you look at Messi, for example, same thing. It's amazing. Then you try and compare him and try and find the little things that he's got that he ain't got. And it's like, what does that make him a better footballer? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I stay away from the argument because they're both just. Why can't we just appreciate having them both around at the same time? Do you know what I mean? And just say, wow, sure. Do you know what I mean?
100%. It's arguably the same. I mean, sure, I started the conversation, but arguably it's the same in the Premier League. Sure, we want to win the league, so we're hoping we have the best striker. But essentially, it's just great that we can have a conversation of having Lukaku, Kane, Ronaldo, who is the best striker. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have obviously Kane and Lewandowski in the Bundesliga. You have Benzema in La Liga. But other than that, there's no one that comes even anywhere close to the three in the Premier League.
Nowhere near. Our league is definitely the best league in the world, and it's proven with the players that we've got. You know, forget like people like Sancho have come across. You know, he was Europe's top assister last season. Do you know what I mean?
I think for 2 seasons straight.
So yeah, I know he hasn't started well for Man United, but what I'm trying to get is that it's attracting a lot of the best players around the world in Europe to come into the league, and it's going to be good. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be an interesting one, and I think the Ronaldo, Kane, and Lukaku thing is. I think, like I said, if we're talking about goals, I think the reason I think Ronaldo will maybe score more than Lukaku is just because of having Fernandes and Pogba, and in games he might score 3 or 4 goals. You know what I mean? And with Lukaku, you might see him score for Chelsea, but maybe 1 a game. You know what I mean? Or maybe 2 a game. Don't get me wrong, but I just think you'll see more from Ronaldo goals. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I did mention Haaland, CG. I did mention him, but. The only reason why I'm not sure Ronaldo will score more is because, like I just said, I think during a Christmas period, and Lukaku will play more games, and I think that's why he might end up having either very similar or more goals.
Did we say that? You think Ronaldo going to Norwich, for example, away or at home, he could easily score 4 goals in that game, and no one would be shocked about it because it's just Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? As with Lukaku, he might score 1 against Norwich and then 1 the next game and 1 the next game, and just continuously keep scoring, but just not at the level of goals, a number of goals of what Ronaldo's doing per game.
Could be. Yeah, no, I do definitely hear what you're saying. It's going to be interesting because I agree with that on Lukaku. It's just and Ronaldo. It's just a question: will that outweigh playing maybe a few less games, or will the less games outweigh the other things? So, or even like the result the other day against Young Boys from Switzerland. You know, him coming off early. Lukaku won't come off early in games. So, do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. But at the end of the day, I think we're nearing the end of the stream. So let's just get to a little bit of a little bit over. Let's just get to score predictions because it's a huge game tomorrow. It's a huge game.
Yeah.
Obviously, Spurs have a lot of injuries as well. I'm not, because I just got back from holiday at 2:30 a.m. yesterday, I'm not all clued up on who they have injured. Jem, if you know better, please do inform me. But I am confident. Like I said at the very beginning of the stream, Chelsea, Tuchel, Lukaku, they've just put me in a position where I'm so confident in pretty much any game we go into. I don't care if we play City. I don't care if we play Ronaldo, Man United, or whoever we play. I go into, I'm like, probably going to win. That's what I feel like. Sure, we might have a bad day and it might go wrong, but I don't think I'll feel that before a game. And just go back to when we had Lampard. I went into games, especially towards the end, I'm like, no chance we're winning this. That game against Leicester, his last league game, none of us went into that actually thinking we're going to win. Like, surely. Do you know what I mean? Like, none of us even had hope.
Yeah.
It's just so different now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think with Spurs, from what I've heard, Bergwijn's injured. Son's still a massive if and but. Eric Dyer's out. And I think from what I'm hearing from the Spurs side of things, I think what they're worried about is who they play and how they set up. Because if they're worried that Harry Winks is going to start in midfield. So it may...
Tanganga suspended, didn't he?
Tenanga, yeah, he's suspended as well. Yeah, so they're missing a lot of individuals. Sanchez and Romero might be their centre backs tomorrow, from what I've heard. So we'll see.
Has Romero? I haven't actually followed. Has Romero started a Prem game yet?
I don't think so. I haven't followed Spurs, but I haven't seen him play any games.
I suppose he played against Lukaku at least, so he knows that obviously from Serie A last season. But I'm not an expert on Lukaku's record against Atalanta last season. No. But Atalanta obviously were a great team, not defensively, mind you. They just outscored everyone.
Everyone. Yeah, so
go on.
No, I was going to say, I think in terms of if you're talking about predictions, I think I don't think we can see tomorrow. If we start the team that we went through earlier on with Christensen, Rudiger, and Silva at the back, I think it will be a 2-0 Chelsea, and I will go with a Lukaku goal, and I'll go with a Kai Havertz because Kai Havertz seems to like scoring against the bigger teams, Liverpool, Man City,
Very
Champions League.
Very true.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Very, very true. Yeah, to be honest, I might be inclined to agree with the 2-0, just because we've been so good defensively, because Villa could have easily scored, and if struggle with his name, the Russian striker that came on late for Zenit, he should have scored that chance as well. So it's not like we've always been absolutely inch perfect defensively. We've also gotten away with a couple in the last two games. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends like 2-1, 3-1. But I think the most if I had to pick, if I had to bet on a most likely result, in my opinion, I would probably agree with you that it's 2-0. Yeah. What has Gino said here? Tweeted about Spurs absentees 2 days ago. Thank you. So this is the list: Bergwijn, Moura, Son, Dyer, all 4 injury, Tanganga suspension, Lo Celso, Romero, Sanchez, all 3 quarantine. Are they all still in quarantine?
Yeah, I've heard they're back. Can you confirm that?
If they're back, there's going to be a massacre tomorrow.
Yeah.
If they're not, that's going to be fun. But yeah, I think we're going to round it out here, guys. Obviously, I'll be back tomorrow after the game with player ratings, review, and everything like that, with Pice, potentially with Con as well. So we'll see you there tomorrow. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That would always be massively appreciated. We're getting ever closer to 12,000 subscribers. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Really helps me out. That'd be brilliant. Of course, check out Jem. His link is down in the description. GNA TV, of course. Lewis as well, down in the description below. Subscribe to both of these guys. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Upwards and onwards, and I'll see you next time.